I know,
When he was trying to
down,
explain
I
it
was
to his
like,
classmates.
I had a student who
They
solved
didn't
it the
believe
same way as Michael.
Uh-huh.
I didn't actually teach this as an increment. I wrote the problem on the board and told them it was for extra credit because we were in final exam review already.
So you can take that seat.
But I had 3 of my advanced 6th graders try it and solve it, and one of them used the Michael method of finding the difference.
It's interesting that he was like solving the equation, but
Yeah.
you know he was
Right.
solving the equation. Right.
That's him, and
That's.
Is he always?
So you have some, how much time do you have?
Do I have?
Till, I don't know.
Okay, so technically you all have for this today, so and you can take advantage of that, so. So,
Right.
First, just want to say thank you for letting us come to the
Yes,
classroom.
thanks for sharing your class with us. It was so
Appreciate it
fun to
so
see them in
much.
action.
Yeah, they
I
are
enjoy
fun
them.
group.
They're a fun group.
They really are. So, since you just taught the lesson, I figured we could start with just letting you sort of debrief how you thought it.
How do you think it went?
Yeah.
I think it went pretty well. I really was not paying attention when I was counting them off into groups, and as soon as I saw them moving, I knew the group that was at my worksheet table. I knew right away that they would probably be one of the last groups to solve them. So I was a little concerned that they might not get to that point, but they did. That was kind of a relief. That was my first like, oh, what's gonna happen? No, but I was pleased.
Great, and if you were gonna do it again, so let's be specific, the things that you thought worked, and maybe some things that you would change if you had an opportunity to,
and then we will go around, after you
Okay.
go through, we'll ask everyone.
I don't know what I would. Just can we come back to it?
absolutely, anybody wanna jump in today?
So what would I do
Things that
for
we-
my class, because I have a minor 8th grader.
Right, and things that we really appreciated about the lesson too.
Yeah, I thought.
What did you observe about today's lesson, then how would you change it?
I thought it was more how they interacted with each other, because that one group in the back, Elena had pretty much command of the group, and then Charlie was the naysayer through the whole thing. And it was, you're wrong, no, I'm right, it was kind of, instead of, and you told them at the beginning, keep an open mind, and I think it was more, I think where the difficulties was no one was willing to look at the other person's method. So, because like you said, they all eventually came to it, even if some needed a little prodding here and there. So how do you fix that? I mean, it's like putting out fires as you go, I think, sometimes. So it's either try ahead of time to make sure you have a group that works well together, because the group with the Ramirez girl, those 2 girls worked really well together, and they tried to include the boys as much as they could, but they finally, this is how we got it, and then they made sure the other ones understood how they got it, and then they're like, oh, now we know the answer. It's so easy to find another method. And they had the whole list of them after that. So to me, that was probably the biggest thing I noticed amongst the whole thing, was how they worked together.
That last group actually, for me, was a little bit opposite, because I'm just thinking about just how they work together. I was like, yeah, my students would have been already arguing, but it's kind of like, I guess Charlie was the one that's kind of like, but they were pretty much like, he would say something, they'd be like, okay, they'd acknowledge that he said something and move on. Like, nobody really made a big deal about it, so it didn't turn the group into like, yeah, exactly, because they just let him listen, okay, and then they kept, so he got to say what he wanted to say, but then they were able to move on.
I think that's some of
from it
too.
Yeah.
Lies and I think part of it's maturity, and I teach 5th grade also. I think it's hormones, and I think there are different levels, especially at the end of the year, and kids tolerating each other and bodies changing, and some kids are really good at ignoring that one student in the class, because he's just looking to get a rise. I have a lot of those. But I think you did a phenomenal job. You're so gentle with them in the way you got them back. I'm going to take a lot of your methods. We're at the whatever work stage right now.
Exactly.
9
more days.
When's the last day of school?
16.
Okay, hang in there.
You guys want to share something?
Well, I noticed the group dynamics too, and that was something I noticed when I presented, not this particular problem, but another problem in the fifth grade class at my school. And the one that I found interesting was, I gave my little chart of the groups. Harold figured out his chart way early on. Like, he figured out that chart way early on.
You mean on the front table?
The front- no,
not
he
the-
was-
the first one on the
If
side.
If you're facing the front,
Yeah.
he was, if you're facing the
Okay.
front, he was up in the.
And he figured out that chart, way early on, and he kept saying in his quiet voice, I think I've got it, I think I've got it. But he wasn't really forceful enough, and another kid was just pursuing something that really wasn't gonna lead anywhere. And the girl next to him noticed he was saying something and was like, hey guys, Harold has something, Harold has something. And the one kid who was in the middle, kind of the leader, that young man was like, oh, okay, and just kept on with what he was doing. She's like, no, he has something, why don't you listen? And then he explained it, and the kid kind of didn't listen to his explanation and just pursued his own way of doing it. And, but that was an interesting thing, because when I introduced the lesson to the group of fifth graders, and I wasn't the regular teacher, I just borrowed a class to present a lesson. You know, one of the things I said to them, and I said, this isn't just about math, this is about working together in groups, because this is something you're gonna have to do when you get older, and you need to listen to everybody's ideas, and you need to, so I'm not gonna just be looking at, I made them think I was grading them, but anyway, you know, I'm not just gonna be looking at the math you do, I'm gonna be looking at how you interact with each other, and how you share ideas and listen to each other, because, you know, good ideas can come from, remarkable places, and you have to be open to listening to everybody's ideas and listening to their explanations. So, I saw that it was just interesting to me, because they ended up being one of the last groups done, and here there's a kid sitting at their table who figured it out flawlessly in like 10 minutes.
Do you have any comments to share?
I did like how patient that front table was with the beans. They were so cute with their, like, this is the person
They didn't
who
give
uses the
up.
strawberries. They were just trying.
They were very
And
diligent.
it probably would have taken them 3 times as long, but they would have come to it. And they were, I'm so impressed with their persistence.
They were, well,
And
they had started
your
with
guiding
24
questions were
too,
very
you know, and
good.
so, and they were really going from 24 to 23, and I was trying to get them to
But you let
see
them
that,
solve
yes,
it.
they needed
Mhm.
to keep decreasing, but maybe by larger increments than one each time, but they wanted to keep going.
It's nice
That
too, and
says
a
a lot.
luxury that we didn't have so much in the middle school and the high schools of being able to spend an hour
Yeah,
on
that,
a problem.
Well,
I was impressed that you were able to take as much time as you could with this. Susan, so my math periods are 45 minutes flat, and thankfully we have the older kids who can solve these types of problems pretty quickly, but there's no way we could have introduced this in one of our lower grades and done it in our 45-minute math period. It just would not have happened.
Well, and I found, and I've talked to our principal too, with several of the tasks that I've taken from the class and that we've done, and we've used a larger chunk of time, but I feel like they get so much more out of it when they're able to completely think through the process and collaborate, as opposed to saying, okay, problem of the day, we have 5 minutes to work on a word problem. It includes all of them. You don't have the ones who just sit back and do nothing for 5 minutes. They know that, okay, you're gonna be held accountable and you have to do the work, and then.
And that is something I noticed, because
They-
I didn't have teaching time to present this as an actual lesson to this problem as an actual lesson to my class. I had to present it as just a problem up on the board. You can do it if you want. And because I gave them that option, a lot of them just checked out and were like, I'm not doing it. I have other work that's more important to me, like studying for the final that's next week. And because I did this on Friday with them. And it's completely a time issue, and if they're given the option to check out, they will. So it needs to be in a controlled environment where you can monitor them and where you can make sure they're working collaboratively and make sure they're contributing and that every voice is being heard.
Did that front table get it by themselves, or did you need to help them?
The ones with the beans eventually got it on their own.
Okay.
The 2 boys that were on the ends actually had charts going.
That was the
And
first
one
thing
of them, like, he
to be able
had
to
it,
start.
he wasn't, and it was funny, cause he had the information, but he wasn't adding the leftovers.
Mhm.
And,
Oh.
but he had,
He had his multiples.
he had the multiples and he
Right.
had the charts,
So
you know,
like
and so
his
that's.
top row was like multiples of 6 and
It
his
was,
second row
it-
was like
um,
multiples of 8.
You know, and so I asked him, you know, what about the leftovers? And it was it kind of clicked, yeah. You know, and so once he went back and added all the leftovers, he was able to match them up. But so they found it first with the boys with the charts, and then once they had that, they were able to show it with the games.
So I agree with, first of all, congratulations, I think you did a fantastic job. And I've seen, I want to say over 200 lesson studies. And so, I think the way you actually introduced with questioning, I think that was a really powerful thing. You didn't give away the answer. And I think that is a, mark of a very good teacher is like really now, asking them, why does this work? Does this number check what they were thinking on? So and I think the idea of
K through, well, actually pre-K, although they're done for the year, K through 8, so 2 first grade, 16 plus aides and 19, 18.
There's just you and Ashley in our class.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this group is from 4th grade to 7th grade?
Yeah, and 8th I teach